Did someone ask for some lobsters? Did someone ask for some lobsters? Well, this is Bean and Mitch. Thank you for joining me on a special edition of Bean and Mitch Live. I was unable to tape Holidays Lalate, which is our live recording at 12 noon every day about your stimulus check and some holiday decor. But because of that, not taped today, I'll cover check issues on this recording. And Being a Mitch is always about your unemployment benefits, your UI, and your FPUC. And I'm going to go live as well on Instagram. For my viewers that are joining me live on Instagram and on YouTube, I'll be answering your questions live on YouTube today at youtube.com/LILite. This is the big recording about unemployment benefits, which are about to expire in just a few weeks, PUA, UI, and then the questions about FPUC, retroactive. What's going to go on with retroactive FPUC or any FPUC? Meantime, if you have questions about CARES Act 1 money, grants, stimulus checks from your state, free rent, free utilities, join me on Purple Power Live, which will be about 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tonight. That was a big broadcast last night. Finally, thank you for all the wonderful comments I got today. I got injured on Friday on set. If you notice in all the recordings I've been making since the start of this channel, I wear what you call ear pods, which function as microphones. And if you often see me twist the ear pod in my ear while talking, that's not a good thing. And so while I was doing that on Friday, I twisted one of the ear pods on the left side while talking and injured my ear. So I was in excruciating pain yesterday and the earlier part of today. It settled down, but thank you for dealing with me the best way you could yesterday. I didn't let on that I was really in a lot of pain. It's better today, but it's still not gone. So seconds ago, I brushed my hair before coming on set. I was like, ah, my goodness, that hurts. And then there's people here in the live chat as well from Instagram. So the only thing bad about Instagram is the camera's below me, so it makes me look like I have five necks. I do not have five necks. That would be your congressional leaders. So we see Shalal in the room, and there's oh my goodness, something just tripped underneath the set. Another crash. There's Charles, and there's Dreamweaver, and there's Arizona Ronaldo and Jamie, and there's Jean, and there's Nancy as well. And there in the Instagram is Jennifer and Lara, and there's Tora, and there's Mirji, and then Bernadette, and Linda, and Tony, and Melody, who's always very helpful. Matthew, and there's David, and there's Diane, and there's Paula and Patricia, and then there's Lammy, and then there's Lant Mani. I have the harder names on Instagram and the easier names on YouTube. Chris, and then Nicole, and Tina, and Austin, and Sherry, and then Anne. So let's get to some unemployment issues right off the bat. The big question is, where is your UI unemployment W2 UI benefits going to go in a few days, and how about your PUA benefits? What's going to happen with them? So let's recap. If you were on UI unemployment assistance since February or March, or pandemic unemployment assistance since February or March, your weeks, if your state has not done anything, are going to expire in just a few days. Upwards of 16 to 20 million Americans will lose all benefits in just a few days. And so what Congress is doing with this CR, this congressional budget bill, is trying to extend those UI weeks and PUA weeks. I'll explain to you what's going on. So you normally, when you're normally on UI, you have a certain number of weeks from your state. UI is a state thing. It's not a federal thing, it's a state thing. So your state will give you maybe, let's say, 10 weeks in a normal year, 15 weeks. Let's choose a number, 10 weeks. Well, when the pandemic hit in March, they got something right. They understood you needed additional weeks of benefits beyond what your state would normally give you. And Larry reminded me to talk slower. So your state would normally give you a certain number of weeks for unemployment in just a normal year, maybe 10 weeks, let's say. Well, when the pandemic hit, they said you need extra weeks. Okay, so they created a program that would give you extra weeks when your state weeks ran out. That program is called PEUC. It gave you additional weeks of unemployment when your normal weeks run out. That was created by the federal government as a federal instrument and expires in just a few days. Now, PUA was also created by the federal government in the spring. That's for people who are independent contractors, solo practitioners, Grubhub, Uber, Lyft. PUA. That also expires in just a few days. So suddenly, everyone who's a normal employee or someone who's an independent contractor, everyone's benefits are about to expire. Yes, there is literally nothing out there to protect you except two things: either your state or your federal government. So the states are stepping up. The states have a state constitutional right to give you what's called extended weeks of benefits, extra weeks of benefits. And those extra weeks of benefits states can do. And by giving you extra weeks of benefits, they can say, you know what? We don't want you to go off of benefits and lose benefits in December. We want to give you extra weeks starting in January. Now, someone just said on the screen, I think it was Cindy, not in Georgia. Someone said, I think not in Pennsylvania. And another person said, not in my state. Now, what I want you to understand is that, yes, that's the situation today. But states are, and not in Montana, someone, Jessabelli just said. But I want you to understand the following is that as states look at what Congress is doing, and we get very close to late December, some states that financially can afford it will do extended state benefits. They'll say, in an emergency situation, we're going to give you 5 more weeks or 10 more weeks, and we will give you, I'm not twisting the AirPod, it's just about to fall out. We will give you about 5 or 10 extra weeks of benefits. So, what I want you to do is while Ron just said not in Kansas and someone else said not in Montana, I want you to watch your state's unemployment website and make sure you are signed up for any alerts that the website says, because they're going to announce these things very quickly. The reason why you want to pay attention is that when they announce it, you want to ensure that you go in and certify for benefits for all your weeks. So what's important to understand is that if you have the ability in your account to certify for a week, then do it. You may not have it if you've lost weeks of benefits, but if your website shows you still can certify for next week, go certify for next week. And that's the most important thing for UI and PUA. So Weston said, I got an email yesterday that said PUA is expiring in Ohio. Yeah, so they're going to tell you everything's expiring, but they may also, in an emergency situation, announce they're going to extend it. It's ultimately something the governor of your state or your state legislators have to do in an emergency basis. They do it all the time. It's not unusual. And I'll be very frank with you that the number of weeks that they've given to you now, it's not a lot of weeks. They usually give a lot of weeks during situations, not even as severe as this pandemic. So it's not unusual for them to do this. All right, so now let's turn to FPUC. This is FPUC. This goes on top of your UI and your PUA. This is what we call the $600 a week, the $300 a week. I don't want to pay $400 a week. That thing, that thing. So when would they pay you this $400, $600 a week? And there's 36 people in the room from Instagram right now. So the important thing is that your FPUC expired in July. July. And since then, no one has given you a penny for FPUC. President Trump gave you LWA. We're going to take that out of the equation because that's not what I'm talking about here. No one in the federal government has given you FPUC since then. What Joe Biden is promising is he's going to give you $600 a week FPUC retroactively. Now, the retroactively, well, it's been 20 weeks. 20 weeks at $600 is a lot of money to send to a lot of people in the country. That's an enormous, enormous budget item. It's, I don't know, it could be upwards of $1 trillion. It's a lot of money. And so understand that is a very tall order. It requires the Democrats to control the Senate, which they don't yet, and requires all the Democrats agreeing to spend money like that. Now, the proposals for next week, that December 11th deadline, one of the proposals does something really, really strange, which I don't think is going to happen, which is $300 a week for just 1 month. Who, $300 a week for 1 month? So basically, they want to give you $1,200 going forward. Nothing retroactive. Now you're going to say, was this a trick? I think it's a trick. I certainly think it's a trick. I don't like it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it makes sense. They basically want to say we're going to give you FPUC $300 a week from now forward. And then Joe Biden says, okay. And then when I come in, I'm going to do $600 a week backwards over the same period of time. Really confusing. So there you go. What's important for you to understand is that if you are employed now, the unemployment, you still get the money for the period which you were unemployed. So let's turn to escalated benefits. Escalated benefits is so important. Carla says, I just joined you. Sorry, I'm late. That's fine. We're talking about unemployment benefits. So escalated benefits, one of the most important things to understand for escalated benefits is it's easy, it's available in every state, and more importantly, that it pays you money right away when they're responsive and has nothing to do with Congress. And so that's what's really important. It has nothing to do with Congress. So how do you do it? You pull your 2019 tax return. You get that tax return out. You look at it. You put it on to whatever manner of things you're going to electronically communicate with your state. If you're going to use a computer, you scan it in your computer. If you're going to send it by your phone, you take a picture with your phone. They need to see your 2019 tax return. And with that, you say to them, hey, you write a letter or an email and say, hey, hi, how are you? Here's my 2019 tax return. Please see if I qualify for additional weekly benefits. That's simple. Please tell me if I qualify for additional weekly benefits. Don't say, I want to inquire about escalated benefits. Don't use the word escalated benefits. That's a term that you and I use on this channel only. They don't know what that word means. It'll get them tripped up. Also, don't ask them questions like, is there such a, do you do escalated benefits? They do escalated benefits. You don't have to ask them about that. Finally, there's no particular path of how this is done. So you give them the 2019 tax return, you send them a letter, and then you call them the next day and you keep on calling them every day. If you made over $30,000 2019, you'll be able to raise your benefits about $300 a week, which if you've been on unemployment for 30 weeks will be $9,000, bam, right in your account. If you made over 25,000 2019 earnings, you'll be able to raise your benefits about $100 a week, which is about $6,000, bam, right in your account. And then finally, if you raise your benefits about $50, if you made over $18,000, you'll be able to raise your benefits about $50 a week, which is bam, right in your account, about $1,500. Remember, this is helpful for people who made $18,000 or more in 2019 earnings. Before you do it, you may want to go on Google and look up what's the range of benefits in your state. What's the maximum benefits? And you can find that. Ultimately, if you get someone on the phone who says we don't do that in our state, or $100 is the maximum our state ever pays out, or some craziness like that, you get off the phone, be very respectful, get off the phone and call back because it's wrong. I had a lot of people back in the EIDL recordings of this channel on April and May. They were given wrong information every hour of every day. We had it as a running gag on this channel. How wrong could they give you wrong information? And so if you get wrong information, you have to know that it's wrong and just say thank you. Have a great rest of your life. Thank you. And then I'll get to someone else. And then you hang up the phone, you call back. Don't sit back and accept that $100 is the maximum weekly benefits in Texas, as one viewer did. $500 is the maximum weekly, 500 plus is the maximum weekly benefits in Texas, not $100. So you need to know the information better than the person you're calling in about, unfortunately. And so there we go. Now, let me see your questions. They denied me. So someone asked a really good question. I couldn't see it. So if you have questions about unemployment, UI, PUA, or FPUC, drop them right now on the screen on the channel, and I'll answer some of the questions. And then if you're on IG watching, if I'm able to see it, I'll try to answer them there as well. FPUC in the new bill won't be taxed for 2021. Tax returns in the form. Okay. Um, People said just delivering incredible, great information about CARES Act 1 stuff. They'll cover that on Purple Power Live at 7 o'clock tonight. Is the last week of benefits the same for everyone? It basically is. That's a great question. So your UI and your PUA is going to expire. Your UI and PUA expires the same nationally because it's a national law. PEUC for UI and PUA have in the bill the day they expire. The reason why some states it's expiring earlier than another one is because some states your benefit week is different than another state's benefit week. What's a benefit week? Some states the week runs from Sunday to Sunday, other states the week runs from Saturday to Saturday. So it just depends. Thank you for the nice comment, Linda. So a good question about taxes and FPUC. I haven't done that answer in a long time, but I used to do a lot of videos on this one. It's a great question. Is FPUC taxable? Yes. So what you need to do when you go to certify for your weekly benefits, it's going to say at the end of each week, do you want to take out for taxes or do you not want to take out for taxes? What I have always recommended, and it sounds so obvious, but it really isn't, is choose one thing and stay with that one thing. Because there's nothing worse than saying, okay, I'm not going to take out for this week. And then next week you go and you're like, okay, I will take out this week. And then 2 weeks in them, you're like, wait, what did I do the prior week? Did I take out? Did I not take out? And then imagine trying to remember a year from now when you do taxes. Wait a second, did I take out or did I not take out? Did I ever take out? Did I not take out? It's absolutely crazy to remember what you did. Just choose one thing and stay with that one thing and do it all the same way every single week. Otherwise, you'll never remember what you did. Choose to either take out or not take out and just make it simple. Just never change it. Does Idaho have any benefits or anything available to help? Yeah, so join me on Purple Power Live at 7 o'clock tonight. If you have questions about CARES Act 1, state stimulus checks, and rent stimulus and utility stimulus. I hate that some people, someone asked a question about taking out for taxes. Have they added a stimulus check into the memo yet? Well, it's Sunday. Do you think they work on Sunday? Do you think any of these people work on Sunday? Yeah. No. When moving out of the state, I change my do I change my unemployment state? Boy, I can't answer that, Sandra. That's a great question. These states do a real number on what state you're in, and it's just very, very, very confusing. There may be no consistent answer from these states. The best thing to do is call them up on the phone. Um, I got a 1.3 increase, someone just said. Will UI be extended the new bill, and if so, how long? So the second stimulus package, the CR, the continuing resolution, one of the memos proposes to extend, excuse me, both of the memos propose to extend UI and PUA for 1 month. I got SSI and SSDI 1.3. Don't know what that means. There you go. So, do people now have questions about the stimulus check? Normally, Holidays LA has covered. I do coverage on the stimulus check. Will the stimulus from our state automatically be sent to us? Yeah, that's a great question. So, state stimulus checks go right to you. You don't have to do anything about it. Presuming they know you're there. If you're there and they know you're there, you don't have to do anything. It's for people who may have newly moved to the state, or you changed addresses, or they don't know where you're located. That's a hot mess express unto itself when you're talking about state stimulus checks. I was unable to file for PUA in April. Can I still do it now, and will I get it retro? Michelle, awesome question. Yes and yes. So the way that unemployment, PUA, and FPUC works is that if you're sitting here today in December and you never applied in March, even though you were eligible for March, you go through the whole analysis. You're like, I should have gotten money in March. Why did I not do this? Then you can go apply for benefits, but make sure your date of impact is March, not now, because if you list it as now, you're not going to get anything for those other months. Now, the other great news is that you will get FPUC from March to July if those were the months you were unemployed. Let me say it another way. Even though FPUC was coverage from March to July, and we're not in July anymore, we're in December, the states are paying, I guess this is the way the agreement worked with the federal government, the states are paying the $600 a week FPUC for people from March to July, even after the month of July, now in December. Is the 1.3% for SSI will get into Biden. So that would be a standalone bill that would come after the holidays. Got in my mail right after 3 weeks. Waiting on rent assistance. Let you know if I got approved. So if you applied for one and it's not a very quick turnaround, so someone on Instagram, I would apply for another one as quickly as you can. In Washington State, if you don't have a Social Security number, you may qualify for $1,000. I've heard a lot about Houston, but I haven't found anything for Tyler, Texas. I was receiving $5,000 after taxes. If you mean that you made $5,000 in 2019, you would not qualify for enhanced escalated benefits that I talk about on this channel with the tax return. Any other questions about checks or any other questions? Any other questions about stimulus check, the federal stimulus check, or any other questions about unemployment? I'll answer all your questions about CARES Act 1, rent, and rent stimulus and state stimulus checks on Purple Power Live tonight. 1.3% increase next month. Well, it has to get passed. That the SSI items that I talk about on this channel has to get passed, but it would be introduced next month. Absolutely. Is it going to be a child's check? Yes. I mean, we'd be crazy if they didn't. As you know, now ultimately, people are going to say to me, "How much is the stimulus check going to be?" And the CR, child support, taking off of child support, adult dependents, same as the non-dependents. Really, I mean, just we're reading tea leaves at that point. But there you go. What this whole time? Oh, someone that went really fast. Now it's 1,000 people in the room, so now it's moving faster. They say every time it's coming. Well, today, one wacko senator said, I'm happy to give you a stimulus check, just not now. Just wait a little while. I'll get to you later. He actually said the reverse. He said, I'm not going to give it to you now. I'll just have you wait for it. We need to give money to big business right now. What's with the old folks' blessings? Well, the some of these congressional leaders literally, are really out of touch as to who needs stimulus right now. And the stimulus is absolutely for people in need. My son filed in March for unemployment, says someone on IG. Still haven't heard anything. What does he need to do? He sent in his tax return a letter. So what you need to do, Chanel Douglas, is absolutely call people. The state unemployment offices are sort of like SBA and Javita Carranza. They just don't move unless you make a move. So don't send something in and say, I never heard from them. I sent them a letter. I never heard from them. That's just, that's how they are. You'll hear from them after you're dead. It's just, you have to call them every single day, Chanel, or your son has to call every single day. The fact that you filed in March is just not sufficient. I had people for EIDL that said, I filed for EIDL in April. I never heard back. I'm like, what are you doing? This is December. Pick up the phone and call them. They're a department of the federal government or state government. State governments just don't move unless you push. There you go. Tell them to move them over. I love that. That's what I'm worried about with my wife. Here's in November, says David on IG. Yes. I mean, whatever I tell you in these recordings about, looking for rent stimulus or applying for EIDL or anything like that, you gotta hustle. You can't just sit back and say, I'll wait till it arrives. Someone just asked $1,200 for dependents as a stimulus check. Really hard to say. I mean, it's really hard for me to predict even the amount of the stimulus check under a under the CR. All we know is what this last offer from Steve Mnuchin was. The last offer from Steve Mnuchin during the October negotiations was about $2,000 for non-dependents, and adult dependents were to get the same amount. He said, I don't see a reason to give someone who had a different tax filing a different amount. That was wonderful. And then children, he was going to give $1,000, which was higher than what Pelosi wanted. She wanted $500. How long do we have to wait for our states to? So someone asked about how long you have to wait to hear stuff from states, and that's a really great question. What I've been saying is that states are doing what you and I are doing. They're really focusing on the CR. And states will realize that if we're looking at Tuesday, the 8th, and the deadline is the 11th, and we're looking like we're going to have a shutdown of the federal government. I said lockdown by mistake on one of the recordings. We're going to have a shutdown. They're going to get very antsy, and you're going to start to hear them rushing to do stuff to protect you to the extent they can financially afford it, like giving additional weeks of benefits. Now, the use or lose money, that's about 2 weeks away. So you're going to start hearing more states use the use or lose money like we saw last Friday. Friday, all these states sort of coming forward and say, hey, here's some money for rent, here's some money for this. If I return to work now, will I get the retroactive benefits? Yes. So I get that question all the time. Let me explain that as a great question. So you were unemployed March to July. You have been employed July to now. And your application's still pending, let's say from March to July. Are you going to get the March to July benefits? Yes. How much are you going to get? You're going to get your normal unemployment benefits, and then you're going to get the $600 on top of that because that was March to July. All right, let's use another scenario. You were unemployed from September to yesterday, and then you got hired for a job you're going to start tomorrow. So are you going to get retroactive benefits to cover how unemployed you were last week? Yeah, under Biden, yes. So the fact that you're going to a job tomorrow does not block them from giving you checks for when you were unemployed. That's the concept of unemployment. They pay you when you're unemployed, and then for that period which you're unemployed, they still modify whatever was happening as to the amount or the escalation. Wow, there's 1,000 people in the room right now. So with that, thank you for joining me on this special live edition of Being a Mitch. If you did not watch Check on Afternoons Lalate, watch Check, which is in the pinned comment below and also on the pinned comment to the side. That's Afternoons Check. Also, watch Purple. Purple, which debuted after Check this afternoon, had big developments on your state stimulus checks, your state benefits that are being issued across the board. And then join me tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, for the taped recording of Eating Check. Big developments on that. And then I'll be back live at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, with Purple Power Live to answer your questions about rent, stimulus, food stimulus, and state stimulus checks as well. As always, stay informed, stay smiling. Thank you for joining me, and stay with LA for more.